love horsepower, noise and fine engineering, then you're going to love this video. And it's sponsored by Squarespace. From marketing tools to analytics, if you want to go online and build a website, Squarespace have done all of that hard work for you. So it's not a secret that I love cars. I'm a petrol head. I'm very lucky that I've been able to drive some really cool cars, and in recent years been able to buy some amazing cars. The last one I bought and made a video on was this, my 1968 Ford Mustang Fastback GT in Presidential Blue. Naturally aspirated, 4.7 litre V8, beautiful thing. Left-hand drive, unreal interior. There's the Fastback back end. This I've had for a couple of years now, the Aerial Nomad. 300 horsepower, K24 2.4 litre Honda engine that's been supercharged to 300 horsepower. It's basically a cage on wheels with Olin suspension, a winch, lights. Beautiful thing as well. One of the best track cars I've ever had. Now, the first turbocharged car I ever bought was a McLaren 600 LT Spider, which I've now sold. That's gone. And what I've replaced it with is probably my favourite car I've ever owned. I've had it 2 weeks. It's this, the Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale. Now, I didn't want to make a video on this straight away because I didn't really know enough about it and I haven't driven it, but having had it 2 weeks and just did a 750-mile Welsh road trip up to Anglesey on a track day, I now know this car and I've fallen in love with it. I mean, look at it. It's so beautiful. Before we jump in this thing and go for a blast, let me talk to you a bit about the Challenge Stradale specifically. So the Ferrari 360 was a mass-produced production car. It was really popular in the early 2000s. And at the end of that production era in 2004, Ferrari decided to make a special version. And it was really the first time they'd done this. They'd kind of done it with the 348. But the 360 CS was the first proper special Ferrari, which then led to the 430 Scuderia, the 458 Speciale, the 488 Pista, a whole kind of era of Ferrari making this sort of car. So, to make it different, they have done so much. Like, this couldn't be more different and drive more differently to a standard 360. It weighs over 100 kilos less, using lighter materials, brakes, wheels, so much carbon fibre. It also makes more power. It's got 425 horsepower, up from the standard 400. But that weight difference makes a huge impact on power to weight ratio. I think it's 338 horsepower, brake horsepower per tonne, which in 2004, when this was made, was tonnes, especially for a naturally aspirated car. The Ferrari Challenge, the challenge part of the word, is their race car. They make race teams and race cars called the Challenge race cars. So this was a race car, but they made it for the road, which in Italian is Stradale. So that's why it's called the Challenge Stradale. And this was made in extremely low numbers. It was also the first time that having a factory stripe became really desirable. Before that, no one really did it. And then the CS kind of set the benchmark that if you bought a special Ferrari, you needed a stripe. So the back end looks completely different. It's got this mesh here with Challenge Stradale written there, which looks beautiful. The exhausts look amazing. The diffuser is outrageous. Look how much air gets channeled through there to make downforce. It's like such a race car looking rear end. The brakes are carbon ceramics. That was standard on the CS, and they're the same brakes as the Ferrari Enzo. There's so much carbon fibre on this. Carbon fibre mirrors was standard. Carbon fibre here. The engine bay, let me pop this. Show you the engine on this thing. Look at that. Whopping great 3.6 litre V8 that revs to nearly 9,000 RPM. Carbon there and carbon there. For a 20-year-old car, the carbon on this is in really good condition. Now, I said this was the loudest road car ever made, and it's true. So what happened was, the Ferrari 360 was knocking out something like 103 decibels, okay? And being a special version of that, they wanted to make this one louder. But around that time, the EU brought in a law to limit and cap the maximum noise of road cars. And Ferrari were livid because they thought, we make the 360, we're going to try and make this special one, and they're dropping the limit to like 101 decibels, so our special Ferrari is going to be quieter than our standard 360. So they wrote to the EU and said, look, we need an exception here on this rule. We're building this car, blah, 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 blah. You can't just hit us with this news this late in the game. And they said, all right, we'll make an exception on this car. And rather than making it 105, which would be within the previous limit, they just said, all right, we're going to abuse that power and make this even louder than what was previously the limit. So it is the loudest production car ever made with a stock exhaust. It still sounds insane. These are the Challenge wheels, which I think look amazing. It's such a beautiful car. It's got wider side skirts, completely different front end. This is Rosso Scuderia, this red. I think it's the interior on these, which is just proper race car, to be honest. This is one piece of carbon fibre there inside the door card, which looks sick. Really cool latch here, which is kind of like the cable they have on the F40. Carbon fibre Ferrari badge there on the door sill. These carbon buckets are so comfy actually and look amazing, and they're super light. They saved loads of weight on the interior of this car. This has harnesses spec with no seat belts. No carpets or floor mats or anything, it's just metal, just bare metal with a fire extinguisher, which I love. Now there should be a radio there and a 6-inch kind of speaker there, but there's not, because this car was spec'd with the radio delete option, which ultimately just saves weight, which I think is cool. That's the whole point in this car. The one thing it doesn't have for weight saving is Perspex window with a little sliding hatch. I think there was only 50 spec'd with that. A lot of people were put off because it's actually then not very nice to drive and boiling hot, but would have been even lighter. Carbon fibre around the all the dials there, and the main rev counter in yellow, which looks cool. Alcantara dash, two-tone, Nero Rosso with red stitching. That's faded loads over 20 years. You can see that this is probably the black it should be, or even that actually back there is the black it should be, but it's faded and become very grey. But I guess that stuff happens over 20 years. Now when you look in the rear view mirror, you get that view of the engine, which is so cool. You can actually see it like shaking on gear shifts and stuff, which is rad. That central console there is carbon fibre. Now that badge there I love. That says Ferrari F1 World Championship 1999, 2000, 01, 02, 03, and of course this car came in 04, which made it really special off the back of their F1 prowess. And it's got the F1 gearbox, which I'll talk about a bit more when we go and drive it in a minute. It's a single clutch gearbox, so you actually have to help it quite a lot. You have to come off the gas rather than just pulling gears with your foot flat. Generally when you're driving around town, you need to help it through a bit to protect the clutch. But when you're in race mode, these gear shifts sound amazing. They're so sick. The paddles on the upside, the up paddle is bigger than the downshift paddle, which kind of was designed to help you pull gears coming out of corners and things, because those are fixed. And it's just a really ergonomic steering wheel, just with the horn button there and there. So there's no faff. You and the car in race mode. And there's the fire extinguisher down there. So I think if we're going to talk about the power of this car and the drivetrain, we should fire it up and go and drive it. So I think we're due a cold start. Talking of power, by the way, if you want to take the power into your own hands and build that website you've always dreamt of to drive your business into the stratosphere, then Squarespace is the place for you. They have all the tools, all the features, AI templates. If you just put in the category that your website is and your business is, it will kind of come up with a template that feels fitted for you. Of course, if you want to do something bespoke, you can do. You can choose your domain name at the point of building your website to make it personalized to you and your company. And there's email and marketing campaigns too, to land your whole business, your whole ethos into the inbox of your customer. So if you want to sign up to my 14-day free trial, hit the link in the description below. 14 days is loads of time to build a website with Squarespace. And I've got a 10% discount code as well, Matt Jones, to save 10% off your first purchase, which could be that domain name. One other thing I forgot to say is that I've had this whole car PPF'd, paint protection film, by Expel, who have done an absolutely amazing job, especially on those driving tours where there's other cars in front with really sticky tyres. It does the best job of protecting all of your paintwork. They've done every single panel, the mirrors. I mean, look, that roof pit there, that is the same panel as all the way down around that whole rear end there and the other side. They do such a good job of wrapping it. Now this is going to scare me a bit, but the main guy at Expel showed me this on his very own car. If you scratch the PPF, which is over your paint, with like this, a wire brush, he proved to me how it self-heals. So I guess in the light there you can see that's perfect, right? What I've done there is actually scratch it, okay? That's the same as if someone cleaned your car with a horrible dirty rag, or I can't believe I've just done that. I'm gonna go and boil a kettle, pour boiling water on that, and it's gonna self-heal. That's the coolest thing about Expel PPF. It self-heals easily with hot water, or even if you leave it in the sun. Don't lie to me, Bob. Right, there's those scratches. Wow. You see that? I'm gonna do the whole bonnet. He was right, to be fair, and it seems like Expel have the best technology in the game. If you own a kettle, wrap your car. Let's drive it. Being in this car just in a harness in this cockpit is like a proper event. There's no chill mode in this car. It doesn't have an eco mode, a standard mode. It's already driving in what in a normal 360 would be sport mode, and then it's got a race button which does so much. It speeds up the gears changes, it ups the throttle response, which has already been upped so much. The throttle response on this being naturally aspirated is phenomenal. You feel like you have like so much connection between your right foot and exactly what the engine's doing. When you get the back end out, you can just hold it there or back it in, move it out further. It's pretty incredible. It does is changes when the valves open. Now ordinarily at 4,500 revs the valves on the exhaust get vacuumed open, but I've removed those vacuum pipes so that they're open the whole time because I've only had it 2 weeks and I'm still obsessed with this noise. I'll probably go back to chasing the revs a bit, but right now having that noise just even cruising is just so sick. I do like that the engine and the gearbox and everything sounds so lumpy, especially when you're cruising like this. Right, race mode. Listen to the downshifts. Right, here we go. That will never get old, ever. Turbos, there's no hybrid, there's nothing about this car that you can walk into a dealership now and buy. It's just honestly, it's so raw. That's the best way to describe it. It's the same feeling I get when I ride a bike down a really steep, gnarly track and I feel like I'm on the edge of like survival. You just get the same sense in this car. It makes your hair stand on end. Not that it wants to kill you, but you don't really have a lot of assists. It wants to break traction really easily. It does make downforce, but as soon as it lets go, it's gone. And it's just pure, naturally aspirated fun that revs to nearly 9,000 RPM, and that's the noise. That is so fun! For wrapping the car. Let's take it on track again soon. Legends.